Hello and welcome to Story Retold. I'm Calina and I am comparing the Nancy Drew PC game by Her Interactive, the final scene, with the book that it was based on, Nancy Drew Case Files number 38, The Final Scene. The book and the game have relatively similar stories, but with a bunch of differences. In the book, it takes place at River Heights, at the River Heights Century Cinema Theater, which is later learned that it was once named the Royal Palladium. It's going to be torn down in 30 days, but it has one last event on schedule, the movie premiere of Brady Armstrong and Deirdre Michelot, his co-star. And Bess is the one who gets kidnapped. Nancy, Bess, and George are attending the premiere with a whole bunch of other screaming fans, but Bess wants to get some one-on-one time with Brady, and so the three of the girls, they sneak in to the building, and Bess goes into the men's dressing room where she is kidnapped. Whereas in the game, the theater is always named the Royal Palladium. It doesn't go by anything else. The game takes place in St. Louis, Missouri, not in River Heights. And Nancy accompanies her friend Maya Wen, who is reporting the story on Brady Armstrong's appearance at this premiere.
Dear Bess, remember Maya Wen from high school? I'm visiting her in St. Louis. We have tickets to tonight's premiere of the new Brady Armstrong movie, Vanishing Destiny. It's the last screening ever at the Royal Palladium. This place has been a landmark for almost a century, and now in just 3 days, it's going to be demolished.
Brady Armstrong does not have a co-star in the game, and the premiere doesn't even go on. The setting for the book takes place mostly at the theater, but there are additional scenes that take place at other locations, like the Drew house, the Tudor Hotel, Nicholas Falcone's apartment, Nicholas's grandfather's house, the hospital, county administration. But in the game, it takes place all at the theater with transitions, cutscenes of the next day, and you can see like the exterior of the building. In the lobby, there's a double staircase that leads up to the balcony and the projector room, just like in the game. Except in the book, there are some offices downstairs with an inner office in the office, but the game only has the ticket booth, no offices. In the book, the auditorium has green seats and green carpet with a red curtain, and there is ornate plasterwork around the ceilings and around the stage. The game is pretty similar, but it is red carpeted with red seats, and it is decorated with ornate artwork and lots of fancy details, like some of the corbel lights in the auditorium are in the shape of J.J. Thompson's head, which was the original owner of the theater in the game, but J.J. Thompson is never mentioned in the book as being the original owner. James Jehoshaphat Thompson. That's a name. The hallways off to the side of the auditorium have the dressing rooms side by side of each other. And there are three. There's the men's dressing room, the women's dressing room, and the leading ladies' dressing room. Whereas in the game, there's only two dressing rooms, the men's and the women's, and they're on the total opposite sides of the stage. The passageway in the men's dressing room where Bess gets kidnapped in the book goes through the wardrobe with a hidden wall behind that, which leads right into the leading ladies' dressing room right next door. But in the game, the passageway from the men's dressing room is just behind a rack of clothes, which going through the passage wraps around all the way around the stage to the women's dressing room where you exit through a wardrobe in the women's dressing room. So the wardrobe is flip-flopped between the men's and the women's dressing room from the book to game.
I may have to cut this short, Hal. Someone just climbed out of my wardrobe.
Between the two stories, the characters are pretty similar, but with the book having additional suspects. Like Brady has a co-star, Deirdre Michelot, Nicholas has a grandfather that is still alive, and the theater is currently owned by Bart Anderson. Now, Bart Anderson is just a very determined character. He wants to tear down the theater and make way for a more modern movie complex, and he's not going to let the kidnapping interfere with his demolition plans in 30 days. Where, after an argument with Nicholas Falcone, he gets so angry that he bumps up the demolition to 3 days. At one point, Bart does have his men kidnap Nicholas because he thinks Nicholas is behind the kidnapping just to delay this whole demo. Nicholas Falcone is described as having dark, wavy chestnut hair and is leading the protesters over the demolition. In the book, he's not annoying, though.
Exactly.
He actually helps Nancy and George search the theater multiple times trying to help find Bess. Nicholas does have a grandfather, Louis Falcone, who is still alive and actually had worked on the ornate artwork in the theater, and so he's got a vested interest in saving the theater as well, and Nancy does go and ask him a few questions in the book. In the game, Nicholas is very rough around the edges. He is very activist in the game.
This theater's a spotted owl. It's a humpback whale. It's endangered. Illustrious buildings testify to our finest human hours. They should be celebrated, not bulldozed to make way for cardboard megaplexes. Need I say more?
In the game, his grandmother, Louisa Falcone, is the one who worked on the ornate artwork in the theater, and he's trying to save the theater in her memory.
My grandma, Louisa Falcone, designed the molds for all the insane plasterwork that you see in this lobby and in the auditorium.
And actually applauds the kidnapping as a way to help the cause for delaying the demolition of the theater.
Applause for the cause. We need all the help we can get.
Excuse me? We're talking about a girl's life here.
Joseph Hughes is practically the same in both stories.
Well, I'm Joe. I started to look for you, but then I figured better to park myself and let you find me.
He's an older guy who's been working at the theater for forever.
I've spent the last 40-something years finding my way around this place, so let me know if I can help.
He's keeping it running, keeping it clean, running the shows, working the PA system.
Meet you in the lobby.
Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Is this thing on? Hello?
And he is desperate to keep the theater up. It's his home. He is the kidnapper in both stories for the same reason. In the book, when Bess steps into the dressing room, he panics and kidnaps her instead. But then Brady comes in and startles him, so he goes after Brady wearing the black ski mask and goes after Brady's throat. Brady escapes. When everyone re-enters the dressing room, there's no one in the room.
That sounds like Maya. Help! Nancy!
In the game, Brady never sees the kidnapper.
My friend's been kidnapped.
Kidnapped? Maybe you better tell me what's going on here.
Brady Armstrong.
Hey, you. No groupies in the dressing rooms. But since you're such a rascally fan, what would you say to a signed autograph from yours truly?
In the book is described as having black hair with green eyes, and he's very sweet. He's originally from River Heights and went to the River Heights High School, where he was 2 years older than the rest of the girls. Of course, Bess has a crush on him in high school, and that's one of the reasons why she wanted to go see him alone, to see if he remembers her from high school. In the book, Brady has trouble with his agent. His agent talks down to Brady like a child, and Brady doesn't really like any of the publicity stunts that his agent is trying to get him set up to do. In the game, Brady is much more celebrity forward, where he cares about the girls swooning over him.
Big star like you must get hundreds of emails.
Hundreds? Try thousands. All my email go through Simone. She reads it, she writes back. Control issues, you know?
Is overly concerned about his appearance.
I was late getting back from a haircut. This is hard for me. I think my hairline might be receding. It's miserable.
And participates in his agent's schemes for the publicity, helping to search for Maya. We later learn in the game that Brady Armstrong is his stage name. His actual name is Brady Thompson, a descendant of J.J. Thompson, the owner of the theater, which was a fictional character for the game.
I'm Wave of the Future, Inc., the owner of this theater, great nephew of J.J. himself. My real name is Brady Thompson. Simone pushed for Armstrong, more wholesomely smoldering, she said.
Simon or Simone Mueller. In the book, it is Simon Mueller, a guy who wears a burgundy sports coat and is the agent and manager of both stars, Brady Armstrong and Deirdre Michelot.
Simone Mueller, CEO of my life. My agent. Focus on being wholesomely smoldering, she says, and leave the rest to me. So I do.
Throughout the book, he's mostly on phone calls, setting up interviews and publicity things. getting the two stars more attention, setting up a press conference at the Tudor Hotel where he announces that a reward will be offered for the finding of Bess. They cancel the next few tour stops on the destination for the stars so they could stay in town and help search for Bess. In the game, it's a female character, Simone Mueller.
Nancy Drew, Simone Mueller, don't worry, Vanishing Destiny is off. We've got bigger fish to fry.
She cancels the premiere of the movie and sets up photography moments when Brady finds the badge that Maya left. And Simone is also the one who sends the funeral wreath. Simone is often on the phone, just like the character in the book.
She's been setting up Premiere HQ in the women's dressing room. Haven't you heard her snarling at people on the phone?
When the news gets out, the whole nation will be watching.
Extra differences between the book and the game. In the book, Nancy calls her friend Detective Ryan, who comes with 6 police officers to help search the theater for Bess.
Missing persons, Sergeant Mac Ramsey speaking.
I'm calling to report a kidnapping, no longer in progress.
In the game, Nancy has to call Sergeant McRamsey. Of course, in both stories, the police don't find anything that helps prove that Bess is still in the theater, or Maya. In the book, while the film is running, Joseph comes down from the projector room to the refreshment area where the girls and Nicholas are stationed at, and says to them that he got a phone call from the kidnapper. Whereas in the game, right after the kidnapping happens, Nancy gets the phone call from the men's dressing room.
Hello?
Listen carefully. If they knock the theater down, the girl goes with it.
What?
The evidence of the kidnapping. In the book, Joseph finds Bess's rhinestone earring. In the game, Brady finds Maya's press badge. Joseph and George go down to the orchestra pit below stage, where there are smaller rooms off to the back. They're about the size of closets, and that's where band members would go to practice and warm up. That is where George and Joseph find evidence of Bess having been kept there. Bess's shoe is there next to a cot, and there's a leftover pizza box. In the game, there is no orchestra pit, but there is a hidden magician's room down below, and that's where Nancy finds Maya's shoe and leftover pizza boxes.
Her shoe! She was just here!
One of the biggest differences between the book and the game is that in the game, it features Harry Houdini as one of the big presenters, big shows that happened at the theater, and that's what the theater is well known for. So there's a lot of magician themes, magician hidden rooms, magician tricks, including cages and trapdoors and hidden rooms connected to those trapdoors.
It's done with mirrors!
In the game, Nancy simply calls county administration for blueprints to the theater.
Okay, well, we do keep blueprints on file. Let's see. The computer says there are 2 sets for the Palladium.
In the book, Nancy actually goes to county administration asking for the blueprints, which they find are missing entirely.
Very strange, ma'am. They're gone.
Gone? You mean someone checked them out?
Oh, we don't allow people to check them out.
On day 3, Nancy and George drive to Bart Anderson's office in hopes of catching him and stopping the demolition so that they can still have time to find Bess. The secretary says that he's out, but they wait. He comes out. They follow him to a construction trailer where they see that he is holding Nicholas Falcone hostage because he thinks that Nicholas Falcone is holding the girl for the cause. Nancy appears, convinces Bart that it's not Nicholas. They all race back to the theater in hopes of stopping the demolition. When they arrive, the wrecking ball is already swinging and it takes out a wall. Whereas in the game, Nancy's just simply running out of time and has to hide in order to get more time to search for Bess before they actually swing the ball. Nancy finds Joseph in the auditorium, tries to talk to him, but he runs away. She chases after him through an additional secret passage from the leading ladies' room. It leads up a dark staircase up to the 3rd floor. At the 3rd level hallway, Joseph is trapped between the 2 staircases in the projector room, with George and Nicholas at one end of the staircase and Nancy following behind him at the other end. So Joseph goes into the projector room. Nancy calls his bluff, saying that she has evidence on the cassette tape of his recording his voice over the PA system. Joseph's eyes dart to the projector, which gives away where the actual evidence is. Nancy opens up the projector, finds the blueprints, and asks Joseph to point out where Bess is.
Another secret passageway.
He complies and points out Bess's location, which is hidden just up in the 3rd floor. Nancy, George, and Nicholas go up to the attic, peel off some floorboards, where it used to be an ice depository for back in the old days when they kept the ceiling cool, and they find Bess underneath. In the book, they make their way back down, and the demolition is called off. There's a lot more that happens in the book that is not quite incorporated into the game, so I would recommend checking out the book and reading it for yourself. But the game is my favorite, not because it's the greatest Nancy Drew game, but because of the nostalgic factor, and I absolutely love theater, so that's why I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, step right up! Ha ha! Find the ace of spades. Keep your eye on the card. Congratulations! You beat the magician! Don't forget to collect your winnings!
Your audience will be dazzled.
Check out the other book-to-game comparison videos that I've made and be on the lookout for more videos in the future. Until next time, be good agents of good storytelling and enjoy the book and the game! Thanks for watching. On to the next video.